And a good late night, Tuesday night, everybody. Chris McDonald back with you. We're so grateful to have you. Hope you enjoyed our early bird show. We had Katerina Torrey, and she did a great job talking to us about the abortion issue and the situation with COVID and all these things. And we're so was honored to have her tonight, and we're honored to have you all. And we're grateful to have this dear lady on the phone with us. And, of course, Leslie Milwee, the one and only, is here. And, Leslie, it's good to see you tonight. And I got some good news down in Florida tonight we're going to be talking about. And then, we'll see how this goes. But we want to just update folks right now. We're going to show them the results, and I'll get your take on it. Byron Donalds is the winner for the Republican nominee for governor in Florida tonight, and David Jolly won going away on the Democrat side. Fishback, who I believe was nothing but an anti-Semitic plant to create chaos, didn't even come in within. He only got about 177,000 votes. Byron Donalds' margin was huge. He won by 22%, 47.8 to 25.2. And Jay Collins only got 425. So that's a big, big win tonight for a Trump-backed candidate. And then another thing that's shocking, but good, because, you talked about this, and we'll talk about this one, Corey Mills, who I consider to be one of the rhino Republicans in the House, he basically went down big tonight to Elijah. The last name is Elijah. And he went down, it looks like 47 to 34. So these races tonight were not close, and it seems like the people are really speaking a little bit, Leslie, about who they want. And I think people like John Thune and these pathetic losers in the House that are on a 5-week vacation with the SAVE Act not being passed, and they think that the American public's going to sit around and let them get away with this stuff. They're not going to do it. And, I still don't understand how that you can say you're on vacation, you can't pass the SAVE Act, but you can leave a senator back or a senator or two back to make sure Trump don't make recess appointments. There's going to be a house cleaning. And I think that these election results tonight are telling the rhinos and telling these useless Republicans, we're coming for you next. You're going to get cleaned out. You may not do it right now, but we're coming to clean house soon.
I absolutely think so. And interestingly enough, Jolly, who, won there in Florida, he is a former Republican, which he was a rhino,
right.
But he was, he hates Trump. That's pretty much what he ran on. So he will, move forward, but I was glad Vindman's gone.
Yes.
It's interesting with Ashley Moody there in Florida as well. If I'm not mistaken, she was the one that was appointed to fill Rubio's seat when he was appointed.
Yes.
So this will be interesting to see if she's able to step up to the plate. She seemed to have a really good night and won pretty big, but it'll be interesting to see if she can continue that. So it'll be interesting. And
right.
Yeah, Angie Nixon is the one that won the Senate primary there in Florida. And she is part of the DSA movement, which is very scary.
Well, that's the crazy thing. And I don't mean to interrupt you. And while you're talking about that, no. I just want to bring that into the chat. I want to bring that into the screen because it's nutty, because you had her going up against Vindman tonight, who was basically he was part of the witness against Trump in that impeachment trial, which fell flat. But again, Nixon was the DSA candidate, and she whipped him by nearly 200,000 votes.
Yeah, she won
56 to 44. And then Moody, I think Moody wins this pretty easily, though. And again, she's the incumbent, and you're right. She took that in the U.S. Senate district there in Florida, and that's a big win tonight. We'll talk about this more, but the other big news, as you said, Looks like everybody else. Amanda Green wins in District 2. Austin Rogers for the Republican side. No really surprise there. I think that's with 99% in. Cat Comic in District 3, Seth Harp. LaShonda Holloway in District 4, Aaron Bean. John Rutherford and Rachel Grage. So Florida was pretty much, and Randy Fine wins tonight. He's been a very strong supporter of Israel. Ryan Elijah.
Absolutely.
And good to see that. The only district they've not called with 99% of the vote is District 9. And it looks like that Dan Green, Ben Butler, Thomas Chalafoy are in a three-way tie with around 25% of the vote. Darren Soto went uncontested. Did you see anything else on the DSA candidates tonight that sort of called? Anna Luna wins her District 13. She was unopposed. She has been a firebrand up there in the House.
She has been.
Very much so. It looks like things have been pretty no surprises tonight. I mean, I think you told me this before the show started, that the margin of error was the margin of victory.
I knew what you meant.
The margin of victory for Byron Donalds was a lot higher than me and you thought, because I thought it would sure be quicker. But, I want to say something about that. I'll come back over here on the screen. You know what? You know why we think these things are going to be closer a lot of times is the lying media. There was a news story yesterday. I was watching somebody because the people in Wisconsin were shocked when DSA Hong went down. She was up 25 points, 15 points, 24 hours before people went to vote. There were polls in Wisconsin having her winning that by 25 percentage points. And she got
such hogwash,
Ain't that, and is that not what's happening? And I think that we need to learn some lessons again that we forgot. Don't listen to polls, even if they're a night before the election. Get out and vote, because your vote counts.
Well, they're the ones trying to drive the election. That is their sole purpose. I would say 90% of them are probably led by Democrats and think tanks and that kind of thing. I mean, there are a few fair ones, but like my husband always says, who are these people they're polling? Nobody's ever polled me outside of a polling station. And second, are you going to tell them the truth if they say, "Hi, I'm with the Joe Schmo polling center"? Are you going to tell them who you voted for? I'm not. So I know that happens, but I don't believe that. I think half of it's made up. I mean, I just think it's media pushing a narrative.
But I know they are, but the question becomes, though, is why do people keep listening to them? Because it just seems that they are, they do this every time. I do want to update another race tonight. It's out in Wyoming. We got 3 primaries tonight. Wyoming, Florida, and Alaska. We'll probably start getting Alaska results in here probably within the hour. But the thing in Alaska is the two Sullivan, the Democrats put, and the Rhino Republicans put a same kind of guy's name with a different middle initial, and Trump even went out and warned Alaskans not to be fooled by it. But really no surprise here, I don't think, in Wyoming. Looks like it's just District 1, but Gray wins. He's looks like he's going to, him and Freese and Christensen, and then Kinney, the Democrats. I don't follow Wyoming politics, so I don't know if these names mean anything, but maybe to the Wyomings, I really don't care. Just as long as Liz Cheney ain't winning out there again, I don't care, So
I know.
She's gone. She's gone.
Well, I'm not worried about that flipping blue at all. Alaska, maybe a tiny bit more. I know they have a pretty strong Democratic challenger. I think her name is Peltola, something like that. Anyway, I think she has a pretty good shot, but I think it's like Texas. When it comes down to checking that box, they're going to go, for the Republican. Do you believe all this hype in Texas that Paxton could possibly lose?
No,
I
do
just
not.
can't.
I
don't
do
either.
not.
I don't
I do
either.
not.
For a
I think
heartbeat.
Leslie, it's all about energy. It's all about getting your base out to the polls. The media does this stuff every year, every cycle. They want to convince the Republicans of two things. We're either way up in the polls or we're possibly going to lose. And they put fear in people's minds. And I just do not believe that Texans, the state of Texas, wants a transgender approving that does not know who God is, that does not know who a woman is, that basically slams Christianity and blasphemes the name of God daily. Beyond that, he is a socialist. He's just like Alciette up in Michigan. I mean, beyond his crazy faith beliefs, he's a complete communist. I do not believe Texans are going to put that individual in the Senate. I don't care how mad the Cornyn supporters are. And if the Cornyn supporters would look in their heart and look inside their own psyche, they would realize that the Cornyn was a sorry candidate. He was an absolute loser in the Senate. He stood in front of everything that Trump wanted to do in the last few years of his and did nothing to help the state of Texas. It was time for a change. It's not like
I agree.
It's not like Ken Paxton generates a lot of warm fuzzies for me, but at least he's steady. And I do believe that he will stay with President Trump and fight for his agenda. And that's the goal of primaries.
That's right.
We changed direction of the country in the primaries because look, it don't matter if Genghis Khan gets elected on the Republican side in the primary, you're going to have to vote for him in the general because you cannot let these Democrats take power. I don't know why that is so hard for people to get.
I know. I don't get it either. I think Cornyn wasn't as loved or liked in Texas as people would act like. I mean, I'm with you. I don't think Ken Paxton is very dynamic. I think he's steady as she goes. He's going to do the right thing. He has a conservative agenda. He has a 10-year proven track record, and I'm not concerned at all that he won't be much better than Cornyn. Hey, you don't have to be much better to beat Cornyn.
No.
So
I never liked Cornyn.
I didn't even like, Cornyn when I lived in Texas. I always thought he's kind of slick and shady and a mover and a shaker. And to me, that is so evident in the way that he did business with everything. So I would rather have somebody real and that I know what they're going to do, because Cornyn was not that person. So I can't believe he made it through the last election, to tell you the truth. But it'll be interesting. I mean, of course, I watch my Houston Astros baseball, so I'm on a Houston feed every night. And I'm telling you, Tallarico has a commercial every break. I mean, I'm talking 15, 20 times during a ball game.
Well, I get it, but let me just say this. That's doing us a favor, because the more he goes out there and spews this crazy stuff, Leslie, all he's doing is alienating more Texans. And I do want to ask you about somebody else in Texas, because I had somebody. I was never a Chip Roy fan. I felt like that was another one that went down, that it was because of some inactivity. Now, I'm not saying he was the worst representative that Texas has ever had, but this is what I've been trying to say again tonight. There is something in the air that people are tired of the status quo in D.C. It's not going to play out the same in every state, but these wishy-washy fence sitters in D.C. needs to take heed tonight. We're mad out here. We are mad as you know where, and we're not going to take it anymore. And I am fed up. I am more. I could bite nails more tonight over the Republican Party than I even get mad at the Democrats. These Democrats are just a bunch of kooks, a bunch of loons, a bunch of demonic, infested people that need Jesus in the worst of ways. But at least you know where they stand. At least they don't hide it. They don't tell you
That's
we're going to
true.
go to Washington and fight for you. We're going to stand against all this evil. We're going to support President Trump. No, they're not going to tell you that. They're going to tell you we're going to impeach President Trump. That's exactly what they're going to do if they get in power. They're not going to
They
lower
are.
your taxes. They're going to raise your taxes. They're not going to stand for life. They're going to stand for abortion. But at least they're honest with you. So
Yeah,
why?
that's true.
And I just feel like that there is a sentiment out here that the anger in the Republican side of things is a lot more than we may think, and I'm seeing it in the polls tonight. And I think that, look, Byron Donalds was not one of those type of representatives. He was a powerful force in Congress. He stood with President Trump, and if you notice the theme in these primaries, buddy, that we've been talking about for weeks, most of these Trump endorsed candidates have won. There's
Oh,
just
yeah.
probably been less than 2% that's lost.
And you're right. I think maybe this started in 2016 when Trump came into office the first time. But I think even after the 2020 election, when Biden was in control, just the pathetic nature of some of these Republicans, these rhinos that went along to get along. And I think people are fed up with that. And I agree. I think that the Chip Roys and some of these people, I think Boone is definitely part of that. These people need to go away. If you're not going to vote the way the people want and elected you, then get out. And people are willing to do that. I think that's been evident in this cycle.
I see that too. Well, and I will say this about what you just said. I do want to get your opinion, and I don't think I've ever asked you this. And I think it was it you or somebody else that I had on my program here, and we were talking about Kevin McCartney. And Leslie, hindsight's always 40-40. I'm learning as I get older. It's not even 20-20. It's 40-40. But I believe that we made a mistake in letting Matt Gaetz lead that rebellion back in 22 and get McCartney out. I think McCartney would have already stepped in and had a lot of things codified in the law for President Trump. I may be wrong about that, but I don't see any more action in Mike Johnson than Kevin McCartney was doing. And they all talk a slick game, and they all have the jargon down. They all have the rhino bumper sticker stuff down. And it's the same thing. I've got my eye on a young man by the name of Brandon Gill.
Oh, yes,
I would
sir.
vote for Brandon Gill tonight for the next House Speaker. I just pray that he keeps that energy and does not let Washington get in his head. He is the son-in-law of Dinesh D'Souza. And
Right.
I love that kid to death. I watch him.
I do
get
too.
his video feeds on X, and I'm like, of all the congressmen, he speaks with clarity. And I really believe that he would fight for President Trump a lot harder than Mike Johnson does. But do you think we made a mistake in 22 allowing Matt Gaetz to do this? Because look what Matt Gaetz has turned into. He's done nothing but an anti-Semitic hack.
And Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
But,
All of them.
I'm telling you, they're fruitcakes. And we didn't think so at the time because I never thought Kevin McCarthy was that bad. I really, really didn't. I don't think he was very effective, but like you said, how effective can you be? How effective can Mike Johnson be? How can we move this forward? I don't know. I think that's the question. I mean, you've got rhinos, and I don't care who the speaker is. If you've got to deal with the rhinos, then that is going to affect everything that you do. So I don't particularly think he's done a bad job, but I didn't think McCarthy was that bad either. So that was my opinion.
I'll be the first to tell you, when it happened, I was glad he was gone. But
yeah,
if I had to do over with again, knowing what I know now, I wish he'd have stayed. And knowing what Matt Gaetz was about, I really believed he should have stayed. And you know something? What's scary to me is that Matt Gaetz was in line to be our Secretary of State before all the dirty laundry got out in the open, and he had to resign and step down from that. He didn't put his name in the pocket no more. And I don't know if that was all by design, but he was not the Secretary of State. He was going to be our Attorney General. But can you imagine him in that kind of leadership, or Marjorie Taylor Greene? And all these are just petulant kids, Leslie. They acted like a bunch of petulant children.
Do you think Trump had a part in weeding them out, getting the news out that, according to Matt Gaetz, and I don't really remember Trump coming forward and talking about this specifically, but I know that he and Matt Gaetz had a relationship. Have you, of course, I've heard, obviously, since all that happened, that, Trump disowned him and the Marjorie Taylor Greene. I think Trump wanted that exposed. I think he wanted people to see what a nut she was. She was on Megyn Kelly about, I want to say 7 or 8 months ago. And I'm telling you, she was crazy. And I thought, oh my goodness, this woman, she was crazy like a fox, though, because she's smart, but it's not used for good. No. And I think Matt Gaetz is like that too. I think Matt Gaetz is just a young man that got the power and the glory went to his head, and he called in favors and he did things he shouldn't have done. I'm not saying that can't happen to anyone. We all make poor choices, but I think there's a lot more to that. And I think the Marjorie Taylor Greene thing, I don't believe that Trump is threatening her and all that crap. I think she's crazy. But I do think he tried to expose her and was glad when she was exposed. I have no doubt.
Well, I'm glad she was exposed, but also I'm glad she's out of Congress and all. But I just sense there's something in the air. And I don't know how this is going to bode for us in November. I just pray that people understand that if you was mad with your congressman, the primaries were the time to change direction of the Republican Party. Once these primaries are in place, and they're coming together tonight, I think this is the last primary.
Well, next week.
Next week is the final one. I think it's Oklahoma, maybe voting.
Two or three, but I'm not sure exactly how many, but
let's just say that after next week, the field for November will be set. And we cannot afford, in any shape, form, or fashion, to let these Democrats take power. We just can't.
No. And I think it'll become clear. They always use the old Labor Day cutoff, and I think that's still very true. I think people start to really pay attention in the first week of September. That's when things pretty much launch on full tilt. And I think we're going to see that. And we need to it's kind of bad for even Florida. And I certainly think for Oklahoma and Texas, when you have late primaries, I think that's really hard on candidates, Democrat or Republican, because I think you're so busy trying to make it into the, out of the primary. I know it's been brutal here in Oklahoma watching the two gubernatorial candidates. I mean, it's crazy, and I will be so happy when it's over.
I'm with you on that. I want to welcome all our ex-audience in tonight. We're grateful that you're here. We've got a pretty good, robust crowd over there tonight, and we're grateful for you being with us. And if you've not subscribed to us, please follow us on X, and please subscribe to us on Facebook and YouTube tonight. If you've not subscribed to our channel, please hit that subscribe button and the like button. I do want to ask you something. You mentioned Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Gaetz and all. What's we talked about this a little bit. What do you think's going on in his head right now? I love my president, and I voted for him 3 times. I would vote for him 30 more times. I would. But there's just some weird stuff going on in his head right now about the Middle East. And I know that he has us all scratching our heads about this Iranian thing. But as I told you, I heard him say yesterday that when I saw it over the weekend, we got James Akers later this week. We'll talk with him about this. But the South Korea thing is mind blowing, where he's basically stopped the military drills with the South Koreans, and he calls Kim Jong Un his friend. I mean, what is that about?
I know. Well, you and I talked about that earlier. I just think he has the attitude that there's no one that I won't talk to or negotiate with. Now, in his great wisdom, it usually comes out there is usually some reason that he did something for, or is he just trying to lash out at them not helping us in Iran and making it clear that he doesn't, the leader does not want to do that. I don't know if he thinks that's leverage. I've gotten to the point, I'm telling you, Chris, after almost 10 years of this, I'm going to give up trying to predict what he's thinking, because obviously my brain does not think the same way his does. I am not on that plane at that level. So it'll be interesting. I don't know. What do you think's going on?
Well, I don't either. And again, I think that this is what we've come to love about him. And I think this is what drives us also to drink about him sometimes, even his most ardent supporters. Because we don't know sometimes whether what he's doing is a publicity, and I hate to use the word stunt, but something to gin up the other side to make them make their move, show their hand or whatever. And there may be some of that to this. I have no belief that he would basically support North Korea and doing some crazy stuff. I think that President Trump is trying to be at peace with the world. I think he wants peace. He doesn't want war. And he doesn't want to provoke the North Koreans. He don't want to provoke China. He don't want to provoke Iran, even though that they're provoking him. He sees Iran as a threat. He sees Iran's nuclear situation that has got to be addressed. This ceasefire agreement ended here over the weekend. And I'm reading the newspapers, and even my own hometown paper here in Knoxville area, their headline Saturday was ceasefire ends in stalemate. Iran holds the line and wins. And I thought to myself, Iran ain't won. But see, that's the media. And that's why I think that he can't win. If he attacks Iran, he's a warmonger. If he don't attack Iran, then they say, well, the Iranians have stood up to Trump and the Iranians have won this, which they've not done any of the such. But he doesn't help his cause by this pausing, bombing.
No.
Bombing. To me, make a choice. If you're going to bomb them to smithereens, get this done, stop playing around with him, take this regime down, and be done. And there's no clear path. And I think that is what a lot of people are concerned about. But the gas prices, Leslie, have fallen off the tank again. And again, I'll even use my own local media. They've not spun it that way. They're spinning it. The gas prices are going up. Well, gas went all the way down to $3.20 here in Knoxville today, or East Tennessee. That's lowest it's been probably in 7 months. And something's going on that he's doing it right.
Here. Yeah. And it's really weird. I don't think I've ever seen the discrepancy like it is. Some places are literally 50 cents more a gallon than other places. And the only thing I can attribute that to is I get my gas at Sam's. It's $2.96 a gallon. And then down the road, it may be $3.50. And the only thing I can think of is purchasing power. And maybe they had all of this gas in reserve that they bought early and they're passing on to their consumers. I honestly don't know, but I don't ever think in my lifetime, and I've been driving since 1976, and I don't think I've ever seen that kind of a discrepancy, across town like it is, which I don't know if I think some of these places do it for gouging. I think they take advantage of a situation where they think they want to use the war as a way to gouge, do price gouging. And I hope they get busted for it.
Right. We're trying to get some results coming in from Alaska. We haven't seen anything yet. Yeah, Mary Peralta is her name, the Democrat. She's a former U.S. Representative, and she will probably, give him a good run. But I still, a representative, I still feel, Leslie, and I go back to what we have been screaming about for weeks about voting. The Republicans have the momentum in the registrations, the money. These Democrats are imploding, but it's like I told you last week. What worries me to death is the energy and the absolute ownership of the social media platforms that these DAS, well, they are a bunch of DBS candidates. I'll just let you fill in the BS part. But let's just say that, but they do own the social media energy. And it's the Republicans have got to up their game. They've just got to they cannot take for granted that people are not going to go out to these polls and vote. It's all about voting. It's all about voting. It's all about voting. We've got the numbers if we'll just go vote.
Well, that's funny that you say that, because I was listening to Dan Bongino this morning, his podcast, and he was saying the same thing. This election is full of good conservative Republican candidates, but you just have to go vote for them. And Scott Pressler saying the same thing. He was on there today with Bongino, and what that young man has done, what an impact that young man has done. And I think we have a big void where Charlie Kirk reached out to the youth and moved that youth movement. We have no one that is anywhere near his talent or belief system or energy and charisma that we can turn to. And that, I think, is really going to hurt us too.
Yeah. I will say this about the Alaska primary. They've got what they call an all-party primary. In other words, everybody is running tonight, both Dems and Republicans. The top four will advance to the general election to be decided in November. And Dan Sullivan is the one that Trump's endorsed. He's the incumbent GOP. But the Daniel Sullivan Jr., he puts a J in his name. His name is on the ballot, and President Trump went out today and said, look, Alaskans, be smart. Make sure that you're voting for the incumbent. And so I think that what we're going to see tonight, and again, they've not closed, I don't know if the polls are even closed out there yet, but Sullivan and Patola will probably be the top two. Gerald Heikes and then this Daniel J. Sullivan are probably going to be in that. It's going to be interesting to see what the other two, but it's going to come down to the Republican and the Democrat. It's sort of like California's elections, how they did with the Spencer Pratt, Karen Bass, and
they ripped him off. I mean, that is voter fraud. I am 100% sure. I can't believe there aren't enough good people to not only change that system. That's one thing that was so frustrating voting in California that made me crazy, is the top two move on. And it doesn't matter if there are two Democrats. There's never two Republicans, ever. But there are usually two Democrats. And talk about not getting out and voting. I'm not going to go vote for a Democrat. I'm not going to vote in that particular race.
Yeah. Well, I do. President Trump has chimed in tonight about Alec Vindman's loss. He says, "How cool is that?"
Oh, I bet he did.
And Trump is no fan of Lieutenant Colonel Alex Vindman, who was the National Security Council advisor that was a star witness in 2019 and lied along with Angie. I remember her too. She was just, these people were so horrible. Angie Nixon. And he raised her, but he lost badly tonight. And President Trump, I'm going to play this. I think this is him right here. Well, No, that was a meme. I'm sorry. I thought they had him. The memes are going to be brutal. Trump, the thing about President Trump, another thing that we love about him, when he does these things, he makes it, it's hilarious what he does. I've got the Newswire up here. I'll go to Gateway Pundit here and show the video here to the people. But yeah, he was asked about it, and he's on X tonight, calling him a traitor and everything else. Nick Sorter says Alex Vindman, who was one of the architects of the Trump-Russia hoax, got destroyed in his Democratic primary tonight. And he put some ugly words in there I won't read, but he says Americans are not buying your lies. Enjoy unemployment, loser. And I'll amend that. I'll amend that. Isn't that crazy? But anyway.
Well, and one of the other few Democrats that kind of surprised me was Moskowitz.
Yeah.
Jared Moskowitz. He came straight out. I saw him on some show last week. It might have been I don't think it was with Shannon Bream, but kind of a meet the press kind of thing. And he was very anti-DSA. He said, look, I represent a district in Florida where people came over to escape socialism on a boat or, at the risk of death trying to get here. And this is not what they came for. And I noticed that he won pretty big tonight. And, I just wish all these people would call these DSA people out. I mean, it's like they're afraid of their own shadow. They're, the Chuck Schumers, and they're afraid. They're not going to call anybody out.
Yeah, I'm with you there. By the way, Debbie Wasserman Schultz has won her primary tonight.
Oh, I saw that.
But there was nobody to run against her, and that was not surprising. I'm just looking at some of these hearings. Hey, I do want to ask you a question about a story that is not really getting a lot of mileage, but it should tonight, and that's this former advisor to Fauci, David Morans, pled guilty tonight to defraud the United States by hiding COVID origin records and evading FOIA. And they got his picture here. He's 78. He entered the plea today in Maryland under an agreement with prosecutors, and they're basically saying that he would not give up the information. He's facing 5 years in prison for conspiracy to commit offenses. Actual sentences are typically less than the maximum, but anyway.
Well, if you're 78, that I think even a couple of years is
that's the rest of his life. But do you think that bodes for the fact that Fauci may actually be looked at, because these states are not going to play with him? He's got 5 states investigating him tonight. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's wonderful, and you're right. It's not being reported. I saw a tiny, tiny blurb on CBS changing channels about it. It was literally 28, 30 seconds maybe of, former Fauci aide pleads guilty to dodging COVID-19 facts. I don't think that bodes well for Fauci at all. I think that ought to scare the out of him, because we don't care if you're old or young or white or black. We're going to come after you. You are partially responsible for not only creating this lab virus, you lied about where it came from, and you were complicit in it. It's like driving the getaway car in a murder. You're still guilty. I'm sorry. That's the way we look at it. And that can go both ways. I think Fauci and Morans fed off of each other, and I think Deborah Birx needs to be involved in this. There are several people that need to go down with this.
Totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. I want to look and see. Next, actually, what's coming up tonight's the 18th. We've got Vermont, Wisconsin, Alaska, Florida, Oklahoma, primary, and then we got the South Carolina runoff. Now we'll be busy next Tuesday night, Millie, because we got Lindsey Graham's sister and the Rhino Norman. But there are still primaries up in the Northeast in September. The 1st, the 8th, the 9th, and the 15th. Rhode Island, Delaware, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. So we're not quite done with these things yet. And but boy, I tell you, I don't know why they don't have primaries all in one day. That would sure help things, wouldn't it?
Well, again, it gets back. I just think it's unfair to the candidates and actually to the people who have their allegiance. I mean, that's happening right now in the state of Oklahoma. You know, you have two contenders that pretty much are probably almost 50-50, and they're vicious on both sides. The ads are ugly. The people are exhausted. I'm exhausted, and I watch it every day, and I choose to watch it. And I'm just thinking of the average person that's trying to make up their mind to vote. It's draining, and I think it's not good for either candidate because people get election fatigue. It just drones on and on. So, yeah, if I had my druthers, I'd rather they do it by June and do it all in one day, like you said, and treat it more as a day of election. And I think for some reason we just let states do it, and I'm not sure that I like that, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Changing subjects a little bit, I think, again, there's not really much else to report on the primaries tonight, but Tucker Carlson is out there saying tonight that Israeli schools don't use the plus sign in math because it resembles a cross. Buddy, I tell you, what in the world is going on with Tucker Carlson? And did you see the interview with Candace? I think this happened after we had the show last week. That she, with all the evidence pointing to Tyler Robinson being the killer, she's still out there insinuating that Erica Kirk killed her husband. What in the blank is wrong with these people? What in the blank?
I do not know what is wrong with that poor thing. I mean, she is mentally deranged, and you know, you always try to go back. A, is she really crazy, or B, is there fame and fortune to gain? And I don't know which one's worse at this point. I mean, the evil things she's saying are just so unbelievable. And Tucker Carlson's right there. I could only watch 5 minutes of her. I just find her just horrendous. I can't even stand to look at her. I don't know. What do you think's going on with her? What do you think her motivation is behind this hate, unless she wanted Charlie for herself?
Well, that and demons. And I think her husband has a lot to do with it. What I've been told, he is a driving force behind a lot of this craziness and nonsense. She's really his mouthpiece when you get down to it. And I do believe, after just listening and hearing what people have said about Candace Owens, that there was some hurt feelings with her when he married Erica. And what is the old saying? There's nothing worse in this world than a woman scorned.
Right. Yeah.
So,
exactly.
I mean, and look, you know, she's got a platform, but I think it's disgusting. And the people, and I've said it on this show, and I don't mind saying it again tonight, these people that have put these vile things out about Erica Kirk and blaming Israel for his death, blaming her for his death, when you've got a killer with a manifesto, a motive, a gun, a video that he did it, you've got to be on meth to believe that somebody other than that killed Charlie Kirk. But she is so bent on hate, and there's a little Bible nugget in that, Leslie. When we get hatred in our heart like that, and we get that kind of mentality, it causes us to think crazy stuff, and it causes us to lose our mind and do the things that she's doing, because it's a spirit.
Well, it lets Satan in. Yeah, it lets Satan in your life when you have that much hate and vile thoughts. And I mean, I think people don't realize that enough, that invites. It's like somebody said the other day, hey, oh, did you ever do the Ouija board? And I said, you know, even when I was 10 years old, I knew that was satanic and it terrified me. And I know people did it as a joke. And I think it's the same thought pattern. You let hate, you let that evil infiltrate every part of your brain, you become that. And that's where she is.
What do you think? We'll talk about a few more things because we really don't really have anything, no major races to report tonight. Alaska probably won't be reporting in for another couple hours because they're 6 hours behind us, so it's only 6 o'clock out in Alaska tonight. But we'll follow that for Thursday. But what do you think about Jake Lane and the mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, wanting to charge him with a hate crime for preaching Jesus is Lord in front of the mosque out there? Are we not? That's living in fascist America. Is that out nutty too?
I mean, I don't know what they're thinking, and then we coddle and we go above and beyond for any Muslims. I've noticed that a lot just in daily life, even in Oklahoma, which we have a bigger Muslim population in suburbia than I ever thought possible. But I just think they have a freedom of letting you know who they are and trying to take over. I think they feel as strongly as you and I feel about Christianity and Jesus dying on the cross for us. I think they feel that way about Muhammad. And I'm telling you, they think it is an honor to kill people that don't believe the way you do. And that is just the polar opposite of what Jesus does. He died for us. So I try to wrap my head around it, but I can't. But yeah, I think they go in and they try to take over. Yeah. And I think this is a perfect example that, they'll go out of their way for against Christians, and they'll go out of their way to plump up the Muslims, and not be prejudiced. Benny Johnson was talking about this the other day, how white men now are just absolutely being shut out of the workplace for the first time in the history of this country. There are more women working than men.
Yes,
and that's never happened before.
Well, that is one of the reasons, and I saw that Gutfeld had a debate about it the other night, and they were talking about a lot of these men, sadly, they live with their girlfriends or they live with women who are working, and some of these guys are deadbeats. They don't want to work. So there is some of that too. But yes, there is a lot of discrimination against the white man right now, which is sad. I do want another story I want to mention to you and ask you about this Conley dude, this DSA chairman. Did you see what he said about the Constitution today? And I'll bring this in to our people. Eric Darter reported this. He said, quote, he said it, the thing that we're famous for is our hatred of the U.S. Constitution. This is the DSA America group. The program gives us a roadmap to revolution, the obstacle that we finally will have to get over to have a revolution, which is the U.S. Constitution. In other words, they want to change in that Constitution, Leslie, the basically fiber of our country, and that is what their goal is, and that's why I continue to scream tonight. I don't care how you hate, love, dislike, not sure about your candidate on the Republican side, you better vote red all the way in November, because these people are serious. That's what they're going to do if they take power. That just
absolutely
is. It just is.
Well, they believe that capitalism is bad, and I've got news for them. No poor man ever created jobs, and they talk about these people that are successful. And I am not a big fan of any of the big techie people, and but I like Musk. And I think that when you think of how many jobs that man has created, pretty much single-handedly, I mean, he's the one moving the ball forward. And all the millions of jobs and millions of people that have prospered. I'm sorry, that doesn't happen in a society, a socialist society, because everyone strives to be equal, which strives to be below average. That's what that means.
Yeah.
These people that don't work and they live off the government, I got news for them. They're going to have a job that they don't like. They're going to be peeling onions in some soup kitchen for their fair wage of $20 an hour. See how that works out. I mean, these people have no idea what capitalism means and how great our Constitution is, not only to protect the speech and all the other things, but what it offers us, just riches as a person. Our poorest people here are a million times better off than the poorest person in Liberia or South Africa or most of these people. So I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, I'm with you, buddy. I'm with you. Well, listen, I'm not going to keep you too late tonight because we don't really have any really breaking news to talk about. But hang loose because we'll see how things go this week. But definitely next Tuesday night, let's do this again, and we'll figure out who's going to win in South Carolina, and I think by next week we're going to have more of a better picture of the structure of the general election, of who we're going to be facing, and we'll talk about some of those general election races and maybe tie it into that next week. Any final thoughts before we let you go tonight, my friend?
No, I'm with you. I don't think there were a lot of surprises tonight. I saw where Harriet, what's her name in Wyoming, that had the seat. She's going to hold that. Yeah, I think she's pretty good. I think she's been excellent. But I don't think there were any big surprises. I'm looking forward to next week too.
Quick answer to this one. Why do you think that the more conservative members of the Senate have not moved to get rid of Thune? I find that the most puzzling thing, most puzzling question of 2026 is why even not the rhinos, but I'm talking about the conservative voices that we think are conservative and have supported President Trump strongly. Rick Scott, Tommy Tuberville, Jim Jordan, a lot of these guys, Hawley, they are absolutely solid on John Thune, and they've allowed him to stalwart. That is the biggest dumb question I've had all year. Maybe we can talk about that next week, because I don't know if there's an answer to that, but I wish there was. Are you with me on that?
Well, let me ask you this, though. Who's going to take his place?
Rick Scott. Rick Scott. I think Rick Scott would be a leader.
Do you think he has enough? He's one of those guys that doesn't have the most dynamic personality. I think he's solid. He's a great conservative. I think he's proven himself. Not that Thune is. I was going to say,
just got to ask you, Thune does not have a personality. Thune is a piece of cardboard. And it's just mind blowing to me how feckless he has been. He is the worst Senate leader we have ever had. And I'm going to tell you something else that needs to happen. Kentucky, the governor, by the way, who called for the abolition of the Electoral College today on MS Now, but Beshear needs to do his job and tell McConnell, we're done. We're having a special election. You can't fulfill your job. And it's mind-blowing, maddening what's going on these last 3 months. And I cannot wait to see Tillis, Cornyn, McConnell, Pelosi, Crockett, all of them gone come January. And a lot more is coming next year if they don't.
I agree. Yeah. I think this has been positive for being a true conservative. I think this cycle has brought out a lot of conservative. It's not crazy or too right-wing anymore. I mean, with Trump winning in 2024, I think it kind of gave us a leg to stand on to say, look, this is what the people want, because, the media portrays all of us that are conservative and lean right as much as we do, we were the fanatics. We were the nutcases. I got news for you. I'm next door to almost every person thinks the way I do in Oklahoma. And so now I know I'm in the most conservative state in the union, but I'm telling you, we're out there. We proved it with Trump in 2024, and people like you, Chris, and me, we are the ones that are the fiber of this country. And if we don't get out and vote and continue to fix things, then shame on us.
Same here, buddy. Same here. Well, it's interesting, and we've got to. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. But we'll talk about all this next week because it's. I think the weeks that are as we get closer to the general, I think we're going to see some interesting dynamics take place, and
I do too.
That's just my opinion, buddy. I deeply appreciate
let me ask you this.
Yes.
What do you think? Do you feel like Trump's kind of kept a low profile the last 2 weeks?
I think he has a little bit. I don't know why, but I'll put it like this. I'll say what you said earlier tonight. When I try to get in Trump's head and figure out what he's doing, I could be a millionaire.
I know.
I can't. I don't know. I've just learned to say I don't know. I can't tell you. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know if he's working so hard to try to get this war wrapped up. I mean, yes, he'll come out and say things like he did about South Korea and all of that. But I mean, he's usually in front of the camera 3 times a day in some capacity, and he has not been the last couple of weeks. And I thought it was just me noticing, and Bill made the comment tonight, wow, where's Trump? He hasn't been on every night irritating the Democrats. And I said, well, he's got other irons in the fire he's trying to work out, I guess. But to me, he's been quiet, and I'm curious as to why.
Yeah, I'm with you, buddy. I am definitely with you. Well, listen, you've been a jewel tonight. Thank you for being with me, and we will
my pleasure.
Talk to you next week.
We'll talk soon.
God bless, friend. Be blessed. You too. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Leslie Millway, everybody. Listen, it's midnight, and we're just going to read a few comments. I do want to play a couple of videos for you tonight before we leave, and we will pick some of this up Thursday night. Tomorrow's our faith night. Here's Ari Flesher. I want to play this.